Welcome into today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. My name is Madelyn Burke, alongside the Super Bowl champion, Shaun O'Hara. The phone number here, 201-939-4513, or you can find us on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Giants Chat. Just a reminder, an archive of this show and our entire podcast network is available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcasts. We're coming to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. It's Wednesday, my dudes, December 10th. Week 15 is upon us. We're coming off a bye. How was your bye week?
It was spectacular. I didn't know what to do with myself. Like on the weekend, I'm like, it's Sunday, like, you know,
Home
football
Depot,
doesn't start
Bed Bath
till 1
and
o'clock.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Who knows if we'll have enough time?
Possibilities are endless. So it was like, oh, good. You can go hang all these lights. I was Clark Griswold, hanging up Christmas lights. Those are it's always so fun. They're so easy. You know, they never get tangled, never get knotted. And then you know what's awesome is when you put all the lights up and then it's like, that looks like crap.
It's like, do it again.
Like, excuse me, I just spent 3 hours out here freezing my you-know-what's off. And that's all you get. The key is, like, I didn't realize this, but, like, you can't pull them too tight. So, like, if you pull them too tight, then it looks like a line. So you kind of have to, like, let them, it's like you kind of have to layer them.
Got to let them have a little slack.
So there is an art form. You can't just, be a meathead and just, strangle the tree like I did the first time. So kind of do it twice. But, I threw on the little beats in the ear, put on some Christmas carols, got in the mood, and then got after the eggnog.
Okay, there we go. That's a little work-life balance right there.
Yeah.
You gotta earn that nog.
It was good. How was your bye week?
It was nice. It was nice to be able to just kind of lounge and watch football and chill. I didn't go anywhere this week. I just kind of stayed local and just
red zone and chill.
Exactly. Shout out to our dear friend Scott Hansen, who
Scotty's
the
down.
Best. Scotty's the best. Scotty does know.
It's funny. I find myself like when I'm in fan mode, like you're saying, and you're watching. So I will turn like a main game on the TV and watch a little bit with my son, and then I'll have the red zone on like my iPad.
Yeah.
And I'm like listening to the iPad, and like as soon as we're going quad box, octo box. Like as soon as Scott jumps into that, like it's like, all right, you go over to that. Then I feel like you're just constantly, and there's constant action.
Yeah.
Like there is no like, all right, I'm gonna go grab a beer or bathroom break or any of that. It's like nonstop. And I think I get it.
Yeah, a Sunday as a fan is a really nice experience.
Yeah, get everything done.
Yeah.
There was no 9:30 game.
No.
No international series game. So that I felt like it was a very productive weekend.
Yeah, that's great. And you got your Christmas lights up. Have you started the holiday shopping yet?
Yeah, that has begun. That's an ongoing process. But the tree was up before Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving was late this year. So I was alerted to that.
Thanksgiving was late, and it feels like
up.
December is like 10 minutes long. It's flying already.
Yeah, the big challenge right now is the elf on a shelf in my house. That is, so every morning that is the mad scramble.
Okay.
So it's like I try to get the kids to like, hey, everybody get dressed, get ready for school, and then we'll look for the elf. They don't listen.
No, they're like immediately wake up
running around the house trying to find the elf. And
what's the best elf pro tip what's the best circumstance you've got the elf in so far this year?
Well, the elf does it himself. So
that you found him in, I should say.
Yeah, it's he has gotten himself into quite a few predicaments. Toilet paper was involved one time. We found him head first in the M&M jar. So he's got a little bit of a sweet tooth.
That tracks.
But yeah, it's, he's been very mischievous. And then actually he disappeared for a day, which I had never seen and didn't know happened. You can't touch them. If you touch them, then they need fairy dust to come back to life. But our kids were not getting along very well. They were being mean to each other. So the elves went back to the North Pole, and they left a letter for the kids saying that if you guys don't want us to report to Santa that you're not being kind to each other and you're being mean, we've had it with the shouting, the fighting, the yelling, we're gonna disappear for a day.
Wow.
So that was a big that was a big, whip that got cracked in the house.
These elves on a shelf run a tight ship in the O'Hara house.
Yeah, I can't wait for Christmas, though.
It's upon us. And hey, here at the Giants facility, we've got the Christmas tree up. We've got the wreath up outside the building. We're in the festive mode. And the gift that keeps on giving is 4 more games, starting with a divisional one.
Did that escalate quickly, or is it just me? Like,
Yeah.
I saw that the other day. There's 4 weeks left. Coming off the bye. This was a late bye.
I
don't think I've ever personally experienced a bye this late in the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, December 10th right now. Like, it's wild to think that there's just 4 games left.
It's wild, and it's especially too when you consider the fact that the last 10 seasons, the bye week has been around, week 9, 10, 11, like right almost in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So having it this way, it feels like an entire season has been played. And then there's essentially, it's a preseason worth of games remaining on the docket. And, Giants have been eliminated from the playoffs. The Commanders as well have been eliminated from the playoffs. Giants have lost 7 in a row. Commanders have lost 8 in a row.
Wow.
But, a division matchup is still a division matchup. You still want to play and get a win in the division. Something that the Giants have been prioritizing, coming off of last year. That was a point of emphasis. It's like, hey, you got to get wins in the division. That's where you start to close that gap. But in the holiday spirit, the Giants are favored in this one, which is a nice change of pace at home in a game that might be snowy.
That would be nice.
So,
like a little snow football. We got a taste of that in the Buffalo game.
That was fun, yeah.
And it's funny, like some guys just play better in the cold. Like Josh Allen is built for that.
Yeah.
If you have a good running game, like that always kind of transfers well in the snow. But yeah, I mean, so the Giants and Washington played in week 1.
Yep.
I don't think anybody would have thought that both these teams would be on 7-game and 8-game losing streaks.
Right. Well, especially Washington, who won the NFC East last season, has now had a significant drop-off, and in large part due to the injuries they've dealt with. Jaden Daniels
they've been
out
wrecked
a lot. Terry McLaurin out a lot. They've just been banged up.
Yeah, it's really, this is like the attrition bowl, and both teams have lost a lot of talented players. Obviously Jaden Daniels, he dislocated the elbow, then came back, now hurt again. And Mariota's he had a couple of bad interceptions. So, that part of it's been kind of tough.
Zach Ertz tore his ACL last week against the Vikings.
That's such a brutal play.
That, especially at that point in his career.
Yeah. And you mentioned McLaurin, he was on the shelf for, I wanted to say, like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
It felt like a long time. It felt like 2 months.
Yeah.
These are those games. I've been on a team. So when I was my rookie year in Cleveland, we started out 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up going 3-13. And those last 4 weeks of the season, it was a real gut check for a lot of guys. It's everybody wants to know, what are you playing for? And that's where you got to really be a pro. And the holiday season it's stressful. It's tough. You got a lot of things going on, distractions. Wife, kids,
a lot of these guys have
family.
Newborns at home.
Yeah, there's a lot of babies, a lot of baby Jesuses out there.
Yeah, a lot of babies were born in this locker room.
A lot of 8 ounce, 8 pound.
Cuddly baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus, that's the way I picture him. And so the challenge mentally is to not get exhausted with everything else going on.
Yeah.
And I think, look, everybody's fighting. You're playing for a job. Like, I don't care if it's your first year in the league or if it's your 7th year in the league or your 12th year in the league. This is what you're getting paid to do. You got to be a pro. And this is where I think you really, the whole brotherhood thing, we're playing for each other. We're playing for all the coaches because it'd be easy to just kind of mail it in,
and
as
playing
a coach
for that
a player.
And playing for that part of you that dreamed of playing in the National Football League, right? At one point, you were a young person saying, I hope that I have an opportunity to play on this stage. And if you were to tell, 10-year-old so-and-so, hey, you'll get to play in the NFL, but you're going to play for a team that's been eliminated from the playoffs, I think 10 out of 10 people would say, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And ironically, we were in this position last year.
Yeah.
Right? That we're playing the Colts at home. They needed to win for the playoffs. We were dead in the water.
Yeah.
And we won, thankfully, because we were about to go over at home on the Giants' 100th season. So, and that win, there was still a lot of mixed emotions. So
Right.
I kind of feel the same way right now for Giants fans.
Yeah.
We're in a totally different situation because we have a quarterback.
Right.
It's not like, hey, we need the number 1, number 2, number 3 over pick because we got to get a QB. So I think that'll be a little different. But last year there was a lot of conflict in MetLife Stadium when we beat the Colts.
Yeah.
I'd never seen that before from Giants fans, but I think given where the season is at right now, we got 2 home games in a row now, Washington and then Minnesota next week. Those are 2 winnable games.
Right.
You got to play good ball. Like we at this point in the season, there should be no room for bad ball and no room for the errors. You play a clean game, you're going to win, and that's what it comes down to. And eggnog tastes better after a victory.
Exactly. Winning eggnog is what we're all here for. I mean, you mentioned, too, with the 4 games remaining in this season, some fans might be focused on the draft. And right now, as it stands, the Giants do currently hold the number 1 overall pick, but their remaining strength of schedule is one of the easiest in the league. When you mentioned the Giants do have a quarterback, they have a lot of those needs addressed, so that number 1 pick might not be as valuable as perhaps in other years. But for fans who might be saying, oh, well, we need that top draft pick, why would we win this game at this point? I mean, I think you want to win every game you play, and even if it's 4-0. And there are so many times where you see the number 1 overall pick has been a success, and the number 1 overall pick maybe hasn't been the best player in the draft. I mean, you look at some of the Rookie of the Year considerations for this year. Ashton Genty was picked 6th. Emeka Egbuka was picked 19th. Tyler Warren, 14th. Cam Scatterbo, Giants rookie running back who was having an incredible season before he got hurt, it was a 4th-round pick. So you can find talent in so many different areas of the draft. Wherever you pick, you're going to get a good player. And also just a hat tip to Cam Scatterbo, too. He's back in the building today. He posted on his social media, walking into the building just about 7 weeks after his 8 weeks after his
That's great. That's great to hear.
Dislocated ankle surgery. He was walking on his own into the building and, on the road to recovery. Happy to see Scat getting back there. But
yeah, that's always great too as a player. When you're hurt, you don't feel like you're part of the team.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, some guys will come in when the players are out on the field and you rehab then, so that you're not getting in the way of the players that are getting treatment prior to or after practice. So you kind of feel a little disconnected. So it's always good. I know whenever it was when I was injured late in my career, and that time off, you just kind of feel like you're isolated. So it's always good to be around the guys and for the locker room too, to kind of see a guy like Scat come back in there. I know he's still bringing that energy, even though he's not 100%, but that's always a big factor. You were talking about the number 1 overall picks, and it just got me thinking, like, what are the Giants playing for right now? As a team, as a franchise, as players? I go back to Eli's rookie year. So it was my first year with the Giants, 2004. I'd come over as a free agent from Cleveland, and Eli started halfway through the season. He lost his first 6 games. And there was growth in there from a learning perspective. Like, okay, there are things I can't do. Here's the things that I need to get better at. But it also, we kind of tailored things. After the first 5 games, we started to realize, like, okay, Eli kind of got a little more vocal. Like, hey, here are the things that I like, and here are things that I see, and that I read well, or this play feels really good for me. I like these route combinations, and I like the way that we can build off of this. So I think that's an opportunity for Jackson Dart to kind of have a little bit more of a, have a little more of a voice as far as, look, these are the things that I see, and this is what I do well. I like these routes and these concepts versus zone, and I like these more versus man. So, I know Eli started to get a little more vocal with that, but then I go back to the last game of the season. It was at home against Dallas.
Yeah.
We were 5-10 at the time, and we on the last drive of the game in 2-minute offense marched all the way down the field, and we scored a touchdown. We won the game. Those are things that we were able to carry into the next year, and it was growth for Eli. It was growth for us as an offense. So that's really what this is all about. What are these next 4 games about? These games are about Jackson Dart learning how to win. Jackson Dart and this offense and this team learning how to win, learning how to finish games. And next year is going to be next year, but you still, every player needs to learn how to do that.
And how much of that does carry over, though? Because I'd be curious. Yes, he's learning, how to step into this role as a leader, step into this offense in this way. But, there are certain changes that are a certainty, including a head coach and the coaching staff. And with that being considered, of something that's going to be different from his rookie to sophomore season. How does that affect a young player's growth and trajectory in that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to affect it. I think the challenge really is going to be whoever that new coach comes in, what that relationship is going to be like. And look, if you get hired as the head coach, whether it's Mike Kafka or whether it's somebody else, you come in, one of your first calls is going to be to Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
I look forward to working with you. Can't wait to get to work. I'm sure they're both going to feel the same way. And, if anything, it actually probably, if you were coming back with the same offense and the same coaches, maybe you don't start as early. Maybe you wait till March to start kind of diving into the game plan and the self-scout and doing all that. When you get a new head coach, you know what? Maybe I take a couple weeks off, but maybe I'm jumping into this in January and February. I want to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So when we come in here together as a team, I'm in command. I've got control. I understand the offense. I understand the language, the verbiage, the formations, the motions, all that, because I've got to be the general and I've got to put everybody on the right page. So I think if anything, it could interject a little bit of energy going into that second year for Jackson Dart and the rest of the offense.
And we know Jackson Dart is a ball lover. I mean, this Giants bye week, he stayed local and kind of stayed locked in and wanted to continue to make football and this team and this offense his priority. When a lot of people could say, hey, I wouldn't fault you for taking some time off and, binging some Netflix shows or whatever it is you want to do. But, he's a young player who loves the game and is determined to be good at it and stayed locked in during the bye.
Yeah, I think that's good, and it's especially because, when you disconnect during the season, sometimes it's hard to kind of rewire yourself.
Right, yeah.
The off-season is so much longer now than it used to be, too. I remember starting off-season program like March 8th one year with Coach Coughlin. And now I don't even think the off-season program starts till mid-April. So you do have like a 3 full months off, January, February, and March. Like those 3 months completely off, unless you play in the Pro Bowl, which really isn't much of a game anymore anyways. But, that's a lot of time. So you have plenty of time to travel, go do what you need to do, go do what you want to do, and have some fun. There's plenty of that before the off-season program even starts. And then, it kind of ramps up from there.
Yeah. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head to the phone lines. We've got Jeff in Maine on line 1. Jeff, you've been holding the longest. Thanks for calling in to Big Blue Kickoff Live. You're on with Shaun and Madelyn.
Oh, hey, guys. Afternoon. Great to talk to you. You guys strike me as true Giants fans and are also knowledgeable, so I appreciate it. I've got kind of a philosophical question about two-point attempts and a follow-up if possible. I think two-point attempts are possibly one of the most exciting plays in football, and yet no one hardly ever talks about them. And the thing is, statistically, you've got about a 95% chance of making a point-after kick and about a 47.5% chance of a two-point conversion. So it's almost exactly a 2-to-1 ratio. So right now, the criteria for determining which one to go for is a point differential at end of game. And, sure, that's legit. But I think a better way to do it would be depending on how tired the opposing defense is. So if you've been running up and down the field 12 play drives, like the whole half, and the opposing defense is visibly exhausted, I think you have a higher chance statistically to make a two-point conversion, even if it's in the first half. So I think teams should go for more two-point conversions, and it's an exciting play.
I like that point, Jeff, and I like that perspective. But I also think, too, one thing that's missing from the statistical element is just the team consideration, the personnel consideration. If your team isn't necessarily great in the red zone and executing on short yardage situations, or if their defense, as tired as they are, is really elite in red zone because it's such a different, compacted situation, that's something to take into consideration as well. It's not just getting 1 yard in the middle of the field, it's getting 1 yard in that,
Yeah, well, Jeff, we appreciate the call, and I love the numbers aspect of it. And, I think the percentages, the thing that's interesting, so the 47% chance of two-point conversion, I think the one thing that you're both hitting on is you have to account for the variable change.
Right.
And the variable change is what you mentioned, Jeff, and what you mentioned, Madelyn. Jeff, it's, hey, look, if we just had a 14-play drive, these guys are gassed.
Yeah.
You know, we call them, you know, if they've got their hands on their hips over there, we call them hose, H-O-H.
I like that you had to spell that because we got to clarify it.
Yeah, not the other kind.
I mean, that word's been thrown around the media a lot in the last several weeks.
Not the gardening tool.
Yeah.
Not that one. But yeah, when they got their hands on their hips, we're like, hey, look, we got them on their heels. They're gassed. Let's keep going. So there's that variable. There is the variable you're talking about. How good are you in the red zone to begin with? You know, are you scoring in the red zone?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that if you're not a great red zone offense, why would you go for two? It's a very similar play. And then I also think, you know, week to week, you know, you kind of look at what is our team doing well right now. And I think the matchup part is always the best part. I was listening to a Nick Saban quote the other day, and he was talking about one of his first learning experiences as a young coach. And he was calling the plays, and they come down to the last play of the game, and they got to score to win this game. And the head coach comes over to him and goes, hey, what are you going to call? He goes, and I think you should call the play. He didn't want the responsibility. And he said to him, when it comes to this situation, don't think of plays, think of players. Yeah. So that variable change as well is what are the matchups looking like? Because if I've got a mismatch, if I've got a 6'3" receiver over there with a 5'7" corner, like, you know what, I'm going to be more inclined to go for two, and I'm going to take that matchup more than I would if all of a sudden, you know, you're looking over there and I've got a 6'1" receiver and a 6'1" corner. I don't love that matchup as much week to week. So
and
I think that number can skew.
Who's having a good game? Who's you know, ready for a heat check kind of a thing versus who's maybe usually at this level, but maybe today not play. You know, got to take into consideration how things are going in this specific game, not just the macro picture.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I'll give you $1 million right now, guaranteed, or you can press this button and you have a 50% chance of winning $5 million.
Right.
Like, what are you going to do? Like, give me the mill all day long. Like, I'll take that because I could end up with nothing or 5. Like, it's, you know, it's a little bit of a gamble and risk. So I'm with you, Jeff. I'm taking the point. Like, give me the extra point until I have to go for 2.
Right.
You know, the going for 2 early on in the game, I feel like then you're just chasing points, and now you're behind the 8 ball. So I think the going for 2, that should happen only in the fourth quarter when you desperately need to get back into the game or kind of flip the tables from a 1 score to a 2 score. Or that's kind of when it really needs to rear its head.
Or circumstantially, if you know your red zone offense is performing at a high level and perhaps your special teams and your kicking game is not, maybe that's a situation where you say, you know what, let's go for 2 here because that's what our team as composed right now is thriving in.
Yeah. From I don't really love to talk about kickers too much, but there's also an argument
kickers
to be made.
People too.
You know, if you go for 2 early on and all of a sudden kickers use those extra points as their ability to get into a rhythm. Hey, you know what? I've kicked a couple PATs. Like, I'm locked in. I'm good to go. We need a game-winning field goal, 53 yards. I'm locked in. I've had 3 kicks already.
Get in the flow of the game.
If you're going for 2 and you're taking that away from your kicker, and now his first kick is the game-winning 54-yard kick, you know, he doesn't have as much confidence maybe, or, you know, that there's something to that as well that I think you got to take into consideration. So, yeah, there's a lot of, you know, I know analytics are out there, and some people call them analytics because they think that they lie. I heard that the other day. But, you know, the analytics, just because the analytics say, oh, my gosh, we have a 50% chance of getting this 2-point conversion, I'm going to go for it right now. You've got to kind of take all of the other factors into account because that 50% is not equal for all 32 teams.
Right. Absolutely. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's get to some updates coming at you. Jane Daniels has been ruled out for Sunday by the Commanders. Marcus Mariota will be starting. So that's notable. It is early, as you mentioned, too. I feel
like some of that's got to be just protecting him, right? Like, I mean, this is, if you're Washington, that's your franchise quarterback. Right. You know, he dislocated his elbow. He just got re-injured. Like, did they learn anything? I know it's a different staff, different ownership, all that, but RG3, kind of same kind of thing. Like, you know, don't ruin Jaden Daniels. Right. You're on an 8-game losing streak. Like, I don't know if are they mathematically eliminated?
Yes, they were as of the loss to the Vikings.
You know, there's no need to put him out there if he's not 100% and risk him re-injuring or doing something else.
Right, absolutely. The other updates out of Mike Kafka's media availability is that let's see, it looks like the Giants are opening the window on Bo Collins and Josh Azudu today. So that would be a couple players returning to health. Left elbow injury.
I know the
J.D.
Giants
Daniels.
activated Darius Muasau and Art Green.
Yep. And just keeping up with the latest on the media availabilities. Also, did you know, this is a great observation from Ryan Dunleavy, is that Mike Kafka, 6 years younger than Phillip Rivers, who is now on track to potentially start for the Colts on Sunday, but Mike Kafka will not be.
That was a joke when I first saw that Phillip Rivers was signing with the Colts. I'm like, as a coach, like I thought he was coming in as like an assistant.
He signed a one-day contract in July to ceremoniously retire with the Chargers, because that was a franchise that he spent the majority of his career with. So it's like, does he do it again? Do we mulligan the ceremony? I mean,
So just to clarify too, he has been signed to the practice squad.
Squad. However,
he will practice now, and then based on that, then they could activate him, and then he could end up starting the game.
But reportedly, he has been using the Colts offense in his son's high school football, and he and Shane Steichen have been in regular communication about schematics and plays and all that. So he's well familiar with it.
Interesting. Yeah. So Eli, where you at? Let's go. Phillip's doing it. Now, what's interesting too is that Phillip is eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2026, I believe.
I'm curious if
he gets activated to the active roster, that resets that clock.
Yeah.
If he stays on the practice squad, it does not reset it. So technically he can go there and he can serve, as the practice squad quarterback during the week and, get some reps. He could be on the practice squad for the next 3 or 4 weeks and just kind of help the team out and being there kind of as break glass in case of emergency. But I'm pretty sure you have to activate him on game day in order for him to be available.
Right. Absolutely.
So that would be...
Unless he's the third emergency quarterback, but I don't know how a practice squad would affect this whole
This
thing.
might be a ploy for him. He might be saying, you know what, like as long Eli's going to get in, I'm not getting in. I need to.
He needs his own. He wants to be first ballot.
I need to push it back another few years to let all these other quarterbacks get in, and then that way I have a shot.
There you go. And then other news: Kayvon Thibodeau, Jamie Gillen not practicing today. Kafka saying that they're just trying to be smart with Gillen early in the week, so we'll see. Kayvon, of course, missed the last couple of games dealing with that injury, so remains to be seen how the week unfolds. But as of today, Wednesday, Kayvon not practicing. Giants fans, with another impactful draft free agency class in the books, that means it's full steam ahead. Take your fandom to the next level with a Giants season ticket membership and catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule on the horizon. And with a membership, you'll also stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, with exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets. That is it. 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phone lines. We've got Dennis in New Jersey on line 2. Dennis, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Oh, my God. I can't believe I'm on with you guys. It's exciting.
Oh, I'm happy to have you.
Shaun, you look amazing.
Thank you, Dennis.
I just want to say I've been a Giants fan since I was born. And going back to what you said about what are the Giants playing for, I believe it's Giants pride. Building that family, that friend thing together, and still building the community thing together to win these 4 games. That's what I believe. I think they can do it. I know they can do it. I believe in them. They are the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, and that's what I just wanted to say.
I respect the positivity, Dennis. Thank you for that, and thank you for the call.
Yeah, and look, I mean, New York Giant pride. You walk all over the building. It's everywhere. Smart, tough, dependable. All of the acronyms are there. These are pride games. That's what it's all about. It's about the decal on your helmet and the name on the back of your jersey. So, as a player, we talked about that. Those are the messages. And look, these next 4 games, they're all winnable games, right? I mean, how great would you feel as a Giants fan, as a player, to just rattle off 4 straight wins and say, look, you know what? Like, we're changing the culture. We're not going to let this, turn into, an 11-game losing streak that people are going to remember. What was the 2025 season all about? Well, we lost 11 straight games like that. Nobody wants to be a part of that. So you got Washington this week, Minnesota next week at home. Then you're at Las Vegas against the Raiders, and then you're at home against the Cowboys. So 2 divisional wins. and all 4 of these games are winnable. I think the biggest thing is just clean it up. Like the Giants have been finding ways and inventing ways to lose games by their own accord and through their own infractions and mental errors and bad football. So that is what they've got to eliminate. And if you can do that, there's no reason why they can't win 4 games in a row.
Well, right. And good teams find a way to win and bad teams find a way to lose. And that the Giants, I think part of it is a culture shift and a narrative shift, not just around the outside, but around the way that, it feels inside the building of, getting used to being a team that expects to win week in and week out, as opposed to a team that is, okay, we've had our struggles and this is where it's going and this is what's the expectation for this week. I think part of that starts, one game at a time with creating and setting a new expectation of this is a team that is going to compete and is going to win and is going to finish a game.
Yeah, and confidence is a big part of that. You know, when you have that belief, hey, you know what? Like, all right, we are going to get the game into the fourth quarter, and then we're going to find a way to make a play, make a throw, make a catch, make a block, and then defensively, they trust that you're going to go out there and you're going to score points, and on offense, you trust that your defense to close it out. Like those are things that you talk about all the time. Hey, believe. You've got to go out and do it, and when you do it, then all of a sudden now the belief is there, and now the confidence is there, and those are things that are tangible.
Yeah, absolutely. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's go back to the phone lines. Kiwan in Patterson. Kiwan, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn. How's it going?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, Madelyn. Good afternoon, Shaun. How you doing? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks for calling in.
I'm well. I'm very optimistic about these last 4, as you guys were just saying. I think that we could win them. I think that especially this next game, I think it's very winnable. I know we lost the last couple of games, but I think they played very well. Despite losing how we lost to the Patriots, I think we were playing good football. And one other thing I want to say is I'm very optimistic about next year. I think that this team is going to be put together the right way eventually, and I think it's time for us to make that shift, to make that change. What do you think, Shaun? What do you think? What do you guys think?
Yeah, look, I'm with you. And this season, it's gone sideways for so many reasons. But, there were so many games that could have gone the other way. I think the Giants have lost 5 games when leading going into the fourth quarter by 10 points or more. I may be butchering that stat a little bit, but those games are winnable. And you flip a couple of those games, even if you win 3 of those games, the season feels totally different. I do agree with you. The Monday night game against the Patriots, that was the first time the Giants looked like their record. Like that, they were down 17-0 by the end of the first quarter. You give a big punt return for a touchdown. Had a couple self-inflicted wounds early on in that game, and that game got away quick. And the Patriots, that's how they won a lot of their games this year. They're very well coached. They're very well disciplined. They're not going to give you anything for free. They're not going to hand you a gift. And I think that's something that the Giants can lean back on and learn from. This is Mike Vrabel's first year in New England. Nobody expected the Patriots to be as good as they are right now. And they're doing it because they're not beating themselves. So that is a recipe for wins and for victories. I think the Giants they've played really good. Like if the game ended after 3 quarters, we would have a lot more wins. And I think they're just learning that the fourth quarter, somebody's got to step up and make a play. And those are things that players have to learn through doing. You can't talk about it. You can't show them film and say this is how other teams are doing it. Like they've got to go out and do it.
Yeah. You got to do it. And, you get that confidence from execution. You get that confidence from preparation and from example. And so seeing how this team continues to build it. But I do appreciate the amount of confidence that we've got from the caller so far today. I feel like there's a lot of optimism.
I like it.
The holiday spirit is upon us. We're feeling good. We're feeling joyful. And I'm here for it. The Giants official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. We've got Zach calling from Arizona. Zach, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
It's a big honor to talk to you both. Madelyn, I live in Arizona, but I live in the southern part, so bear down.
Oh,
Shaun,
I thought I was really
you're a
close. I was
legend.
really close to being like, let's bond over the Sun Devil vibes, but alas, it's all right.
Well, we always have Scatterboo, right?
Yeah.
Shaun, huge fan. I would love to hear from a two-time Super Bowl champ about a coach being able to distill a culture and what culture needs and how important it is to an entire team, because I love Dayball, but obviously that part was missing. I know he's got a great relationship with the players, but accountability and culture colliding / coming together, like, can you just talk that through and how important it is to get us on the right track at 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah, great question. I appreciate the call. I'm sure it must feel weird to be in flip-flops on Christmas Day, but when you're in southern Arizona, I'm pretty sure that's the mode, right? You're rocking shorts and flip-flops
T-shirts right now, yeah.
Yeah. The culture and the accountability, they absolutely go hand in hand. So I'm glad that you brought up the accountability factor with culture, because that's really what you're trying to instill. Mm-hmm. And the accountability factor is little things matter, and when you overlook them and when you let things slide, it's like being a parent, like you have to be hard on your kids, mm-hmm. and you have to hold them accountable. And sometimes that's hard to do. You love your kids, but you know that that's what's right for them, even though they may not like you in the moment and they may not like being held accountable. You have to do it for the betterment of the team and for the long run. You're not doing players any favor by letting them get away with things. Whether it's being late to things, whether it's missing things, not showing up for stuff, not putting in the preparation, not watching film. Look, every player is given an iPad now. It used to be the playbooks were a hard copy, and you could never tell if somebody was looking through the plays or watching film. Now everything's on the iPad. They know exactly how much time you're spending on that screen. Mm-hmm. Like, they can look at it and say, you looked at 3 minutes of film, or you looked at your playbook for 3 minutes this week on your own time. So those are all things that you've got to hold each other accountable for. The teammates have to do it as well. So we talked early on this year about how the veteran leadership in this locker room was really strong, and there are a lot of really good leaders that go out there and kind of show these players, here's how it's done. And I think there's a lot of that happens in meetings, out on the field, practice habits, things that you're working on to get better. But as a coach, it's things that you have to show them, and sometimes you have to show them, like, look, this is what happened in practice. Like, we've got to fix this. Like, we can't just let things go on. And you know what? If you run a play and somebody messes it up, it's back on the ball. Mm-hmm. We used to have a saying on Friday practices: no bobs today. All right, no back on the balls. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody, get your SHIT right, focus, lock in. We're not having any errors, no mental errors, no penalties, no bobs. And those are things that you have to instill, and it's, look, this is our standard of excellence. And it definitely starts at the top with the coach, with the head coach, with all the position coaches. And the players have to take ownership in that as well. But I think Mike Kafka, that's one of the big things that he's been adamant about. He's a former player. He understands how monumental those things are. If everybody is skipping over one little detail, the accumulation of all that is bad football, and it's sloppy football. And so those are things that you can't overlook. You can't cut corners, and you've got to make sure that everybody's dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and that shows up. You could see it. Fans, you see it. You see it on Sunday.
Well, and Shaun, you likened it to parenthood too, and it's like, if you let the little things slide, then when the big thing happens and you try to come down on that, it's like, well, you were okay with this, and this. Why is this not okay? It's like you have to hold that accountability from square one, otherwise it'll come out of the woodwork, and then that seems like since when is this not okay?
Yeah, and it's, when you have multiple kids, it's like you can't let one kid have dessert and the other kids don't.
Right.
It's like, hey, all or nothing. So
unless you've got a really strict elf on the shelf in the house, then maybe they'll. You
can't have different rules for different players.
Yeah.
Everybody, that was one of Tom Coughlin's big things was, nobody's above the team.
Right.
It's team above self, and I'm going to hold everybody accountable from the starting quarterback all the way down to the 53rd guy on the roster. Everybody's on the same, they are in the same line, and you have the same rules.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for the call, Zach. Appreciate that. We've got some YouTube comments. Scotty Young, 1669. Any info about Gunner? Also thinking about our running back situation with the injury to Tracy. Will they bring in Turbo Miller? Gunner Olszewski not practicing today. Of course, suffered the concussion a couple weeks ago. I saw him walking around the cafeteria today. He is in the building, but not practicing, not yet cleared. Tyrone Tracy, Kafka says that he's good to go after suffering his hip injury on Monday Night Football before the bye, so should not be an issue for Week 15 against the Commanders.
And the Giant Eric Gray, was Eric Gray activated or?
He is, I believe,
designated to return.
Yeah, but not yet back in the mix in that regard.
I'm not sure if that was just for practice purposes to activate Gray and have him out there.
Yeah, and I mean the Giants have had, the Giants are the only team in the league this season with 4 players, each with 300 or more rushing yards per NFL Research. It's Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scatterboot, Jackson Dart, and Devin Singletary. Tyrone leading the Giants, 434 rushing yards on this season. But they have been able to at times, move the ball in an efficient way in the run game, much better than years past. I think we've seen some struggles in that. And the consistency there. It feels like the run game is, especially now at this point in the season, starting to get more established.
It's definitely been better in the second half. And I feel like the one thing that continues to happen is in the first quarter, sometimes even the first half, it seems like the Giants are not sure who to block.
Right.
And when I go back and watch film, it's not just the offensive line. Like the offensive line could block everybody correctly, and a safety knifes in front of a receiver. I saw Isaiah Hodgins. He got beat on a play, and the play is blocked beautifully. It should have been a 10-yard gain. Ends up being 3 yards because the safety beats him. There was another play where Theo Johnson didn't know what linebacker he was blocking, so he went out and blocked the safety and didn't come down and combo with Andrew Thomas. So
are those circumstances, are those like preparation circumstances, or are those just, hey, we got a look that we thought was one way and it ended up being another?
I think what happens is on both those plays there was motion.
Yeah.
So you get defenders that are kind of moving. So I call it FBI. It's football intelligence. Like you've got to know, like, okay, I have a spot. Like I have the second spot pass declared. So we always come up and we declare a linebacker. That's our mic, and every concept is based off of that. You have one past the declared linebacker. So you've got to have that awareness. And if you have not run that play a lot of times and you get a defensive look that maybe you're not aware of or you have not seen, you've got to find a way to overcome that, and you've got to find a way to adjust on that. But those are things that I feel like have plagued the Giants early on, and which is why we see the 1 yard gain, 2 yard gains, 1 yard gain, no gain early on. And then as they figure it out, then they run that play the second time. Now all of a sudden it's a pop. It's a 7-yard run. Mm-hmm. I feel like Devin Singletary has really done a good job coming in off the bench. And he's had some big runs. He runs hard. He's decisive. He gets vertical. I'd like to see Devin get some more carries. I think he's one of those guys that, all running backs are like this. The more carries they get, the more they see the defense, the more they kind of feel the run fits and feel where the creases are and the soft spots. So the more you run the ball, the better everybody gets, and the more confident they get with, all right, here's where the double team should be, and here's where the running backs are going to fit.
Well, the more you run the ball, the more you get used to being the hammer, and the more you hammer the same spot, the softer that spot gets and the easier it gets to break through, no?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And, look, New England's run defense is really good. That's one of Mike Vrabel's calling cards. He's always been, every team that he's coached when he was in Tennessee, they were always very good at stopping the run. That's something that he coaches really well. So that was a very good litmus test. If you can run the ball against them, then you can pretty much run the ball against anybody, because there was a lot of exotic fronts and looks and a lot of stunts.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Commanders' run defense, not among the best in the league. They're allowing an average of 135.5 rushing yards per game, 6.2 yards per play allowed. That's 31st in the league. Only the Bengals are allowing more. So the ability for this Giants run game to get going, especially with Tyrone being healthy, with Singletary getting out there, perhaps is something that they're going to be leaning on even more this week. And you never know, too. I mean, I think Monday night, it looked like Jackson Dart was mindful of perhaps not leaning so much on the run as he usually would. Of course, not wanting to take that tool out of his bag, but, leaning on the other players to do so. If he does kind of get back into his comfort zone of kind of breaking off a few as well, we'll see if he gets it going.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Jackson Dart to run. And he's said it himself, like, that's part of my game. That's part of what I do. And, Sunday we were fanning out watching games. Look, Patrick Mahomes is running all over the place.
Exactly.
Justin Herbert running all over the place. So there are ways that you can still use your legs and not take big hits. So I think that's what he's got to learn. And look, the only way he's going to learn it is by doing it. So even for him, he's a work in progress, and he's learning that, look, it's a physical game. Quarterbacks get hit. It's just don't take the unnecessary hits. And I think
and don't throw a stiff arm with your throwing hand.
Don't use your right arm for anything. Get the yards that you need to get, and then get out of bounds or get down. But there is a time and a place for it. If you're going to run for extra yards, do it in the fourth quarter. Don't do it in the first quarter.
There you go.
First half, you do not need to fight for yards. If the game's on the line and you got to do it, then go for it.
And pick your spots. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's go back to the phone lines. Hank in Tennessee. Hank, thanks for calling Big Blue Kickoff Live. You're on with Shaun and Madelyn.
First time caller, long time fan.
Love it. Thanks for calling in, Hank.
I'm 78 years old, and I've been a fan since the 50s.
Wow. First time, long time. We love it. What do you got for us today?
One main question. Why are these referees missing these head-to-head hits?
That's tough to say. I think officiating a game in real time is a hard job to do.
I'm not sure if you're speaking about a particular play, but look, the game is fast.
Speaking of the 3 plays in the Monday night game, Jackson Dart, Gunner, and Tyrone. They were all helmet-to-helmet hits.
Yeah,
I know they called one on Theo. That there was a helmet-to-helmet hit on Theo. With Gunner, he's a returner. So I mean.
Yeah, I think you don't want to see somebody get hit so hard that the paint comes off their helmet.
Yeah, I mean that was a brutal hit, but I don't think it was illegal. And you're not supposed to lead with the crown of your helmet. Those bang bang plays are tough. The Jackson Dart hit on the sideline, if that's the one you're referring to, that was shoulder. That was not a helmet hit.
Yeah, that was shoulder.
If you look at it, it was a helmet-to-helmet hit because it turned Dart around up in the air.
It was shoulder.
That wasn't a shoulder.
That was shoulder. I'm telling you right now, they are rolling that out as clinic tape in linebacker rooms and defensive rooms. This is how you hit, and you can't lead with the crown of your helmet. That's the penalty. Now the helmet you can have contact with the helmet. It can be a helmet-to-helmet contact as long as it's not initiated with the crown of the helmet. Look, that's part of football. Like some of it's gonna be out there, but they're trying to eliminate using the helmet as the weapon, and that's really what the spirit of the rule is. So I think it's tough to officiate, but if the defender's coming in and his head's to the side and there's still helmet contact, then they're not going to call a penalty. But if you come in there and you lead with the helmet, it's visible. You can see that. The referees can see that, and they will throw the flag every time, even if you don't necessarily make contact with their helmet. If you're leading with the head as a defender, that flag's coming out. So that's what they're looking for. But look, when you're watching a football game, everybody's watching it. There's thousands of eyeballs on every single play. When there's a play to the sideline, there may be 2 referees that have eyeballs on that play and that are responsible for seeing that. So that's 4 eyeballs on that play. There's going to be some that are missed, but I think for the most part, when you've got the human element in it, there's going to be some misses. There are going to be some missed calls. And I think that in the bang bang play and the speed of the game, it's hard to be perfect. It's hard to bat 100% or bat 1,000 if you're an official. But I do think the Jackson Dart play, when I first saw it, I thought it was helmet to helmet, and then they showed the replay, and I was like, that was clean hit. And even Jackson Dart will tell you that was a clean hit.
It was a clean hit. It was a physical hit, and I think it's valid to acknowledge the fact that, the Patriots were coming with some ferocity in that. But in terms of, like you mentioned, Shaun, the spirit of the rule and the spirit of that, the league has definitely made it a priority to protect the health and safety of the players and the best that they can, and the officials, are tasked with that. And so, it's an imperfect science officiating a game, but I don't think that there's some vendetta to kind of ignore those plays, especially when it comes to the head. But thank you so much for the call. Thanks for calling in from Tennessee, Hank. The first time, long time. It's a tough one to look at because hindsight is 20/20. You see something in real time, you see it in a slow-mo replay. You're like, ooh, yeah, that could have been a different.
Yeah, and look, like there's a difference between hitting a quarterback in the pocket
Sure.
and then when a quarterback's running.
Yep.
And once a quarterback breaks the line of scrimmage, he's a runner. He's
Right.
a ball carrier. Now, they have rules to protect them as well. If they start their slide, you can't hit them. So
Right.
then kind of all gloves are off at that point. But we've even seen that kind of get dicey. If the guy isn't going to slide, is he going to slide? And then all of a sudden, he runs through the defender. So, defensive players are really, they're in a little bit of a precarious situation when the quarterback does start to run because they've got to be careful. Like if I come over here and I'm going to light this guy up and he starts to slide, I've got to pull off. But I've also got to protect myself because if he doesn't slide, I can't let him truck me and run me over. So there's, those are things that you have to practice, and you've got to, it's hard to practice that live. How do you practice that live in practice against a quarterback? So maybe you practice it against running backs, but that's a tough spot for defensive players to be in as well.
Yeah. It is a tough one. All right, Shaun, let's talk a little bit about this game on Sunday before we wrap up the show.
Okay.
Giants Commanders, you and I are going to be on the set in a cold MetLife Stadium, wrapping
Snowing,
it up.
maybe?
Snowing perchance, wrapping
Okay.
it up on Giants postgame live. I do have confirmation that we will have 2 heaters on set.
All right.
I just want to give a shout out to
bonus.
Georgie. Hat
job,
tip to
Georgie.
Georgie Voltero, who's the MVP of making sure that we are as warm as possible on the set. But when you fast forward to Sunday around 5 p.m. Eastern, when we're recapping this game, what are you anticipating to be talking about at that point?
Well, I think, based on what we're talking about, when you look at what Washington has struggled with defensively, Joe Witt Jr. was the defensive play caller, and Dan Quinn kind of took those duties away from him a couple weeks ago. You want to look at what do we want to attack. And I think this, based on what we're talking about, it's going to be cold, could be snowy. I know everybody wants to see Jackson Dart sling the rock, but this needs to be a run-first offense. Like, let the offensive line take over the game. Let them be aggressive. Let them come downhill. And the Giants have used a lot of 2 tight end formations this season, so I expect them to stick with that. And I feel like the play action builds off of that, and that's when Jackson Dart is dangerous. When the run game is working, now he can kind of build some of those quarterback design runs off of that, and then you can build some play action off of that as well. That's when you're going to get the single high safety. So, I think it should be a big game for Tyron Tracy as long as he's healthy, and Devin Singletary. I think as well as that, I think getting the ball out quick is big. Like, you don't need Jackson Dart to sit back there and throw the ball 45 times in 5-7-step drops. So I think we'll see a lot of screens, a lot of quick throws, kind of get the ball out. Jackson Dart throws a slant ball really well. You can just kind of see he's really confident. When he's throwing a slant, he lets that ball rip, and he's been really accurate with that. So I think offensively, that's what we're going to see. Defensively, I feel like our defensive line has done a really good job against Washington. I expect this to be, Brian Burns is second in the league right now with 12 sacks.
13
sacks. I expect him to have a big game. They've got...
Mariota doesn't get sacked much.
He's tough to bring down.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how physical and how strong Mariota is. And I think...
Mariota, as we learned.
I think that's big. Look, Jane Daniels is slippery.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more elusive, and he's got a little more stanky leg in him. I think Mariota is just more of he's like a Ben Roethlisberger. Like, you can get to him, but he's going to shrug you off if you're not running through the tackles. So defensively, it's going to be a similar ball game from Washington. I think the key defensively is, obviously Terry McLaurin being back. He's a tough matchup. I think you take him out of the passing game, but Deebo Samuel, they are going to have wrinkles for him. So you got to find wherever they break the huddle. Where's Deebo? Because he's going to line up. He's going to line up in the backfield. He's going to line up in the slot. They're going to throw screens to him. They're going to try to get him the ball in space and see if you can tackle him one-on-one.
When I think of Deebo Samuel as a player, though, I think of a guy who makes plays after the catch. Right,
Yeah.
Yards after the catch is his sweet spot. And this year he's had uncharacteristically low numbers in that regard. He's kind of been tackled on contact. Is that in terms of, the timing of when he's getting the ball? Is that, is he having an off season? But that's something is an interesting point to his game that's usually, his star tool in his bag that he's not really executing on this year.
Yeah, I think it's been tough, and I think not having McLaurin out there, has really changed things for Deebo. Like, when he came to Washington, it was, all right, McLaurin's number one. I'm going to be the wrinkle guy. I'm going to be the slot guy. And when McLaurin was out, things kind of change offensively. But I think the other challenge too is, when you're switching quarterbacks, the rhythm and the timing is not there. So, hopefully in the postgame show, we're talking about 200 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
200 yards rushing offensively. I think Theo has proven that Jackson Dart is looking for him. That's his guy. Whether he's supposed to be throwing it to Theo or not, Theo's getting the ball.
Yeah.
So that's kind of his favorite target, especially down in the red zone.
And Wan'Dale Robinson too. I mean, Wan'Dale, he's had a career high in receiving yards so far this season. Has been such a reliable target, especially since Malik Neighbors going down in the passing game. But as we talked about, this has got to be a run-first game on both sides of the ball. I mean, the Commanders fourth in the league in rushing yards per game as well. So, really going to come down to who's got that old school NFC 3 yards in a cloud of dust or 3 yards in a cloud of snow.
Big Burns game, big Bobby Okereke game.
Yeah.
This is big. When you're the Mike linebacker and you got a team that's running the ball well like that, that's your time. That's your time to show up.
Yeah. Are we going to see a sexy Dexy dance?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think a sexy Dexy snow angel.
There we go.
That's what we're looking for.
Let's manifest it. Let's manifest it right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. All right. Well, with that, we leave you. It's Week 15. The Giants have the Commanders Sunday, 1 p.m. at MetLife Stadium. Shaun and I will be doing the post-game show on television on MSG Networks and Giants.com. We've also got post-game radio with Schmelk and Tiki, and a whole week of Big Blue Kickoff Live leading you up to it because it's only Wednesday. So that's a wrap for today's show, presented by Cadillac. Big Blue Kickoff Live is a part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere and Giants.com/podcast. We've been coming to you live from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. For the Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara, I'm Madelyn Burke. We'll see you next time.